Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through the industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Lynn McLaughlin. She is an author, a teacher, and a lifelong educator. Welcome to the show, Lynn.
Thanks, AJ. It's my honor and pleasure to be here with all of you.
You are welcome to the show, Lynn. You are welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from all this that we'll be discussing about. We'll be talking about children's emotional health and well-being. So
Wonderful.
my first question to you, Lynn, is to understand from you about children's mental health and emotional health and well-being. We are talking a lot about children today. Then children are talking about themselves. They seem to be much more busy with, several of them with their phones and other aspects. I want to understand the challenges that children face in today's time, whether they don't know about it or they don't know about it. Some are very young. Help us understand. You have been a principal, a vice principal, a lifelong educator, and now you are writing a 5-series book series. We'll come to that. Help us understand about the challenges, and then we'll try and find solutions for them.
Thank you for the question. That's enormous. We could take the entire show just to talk about that. People who say, the way we were raised, my generation was raised, work for me. Why isn't it working for children today? It's an entirely different world. We just put the pandemic aside. We've all survived that. We have 4-year-olds who were in kindergarten and told not to touch each other, not to be near each other. There's a book here in North America, Everything I Ever Learned, I Learned in Kindergarten. Well, now we're reversing all of those things, but you just take the world in its there's 24/7 news and information around us constantly. And unfortunately, we as adults are the ones putting that in front of our children. It's just who we are. Those phones, those devices, the, Siri, all of it is around us, and it's just part of our lives. So it's become part of our children's lives. Used to be, if you wanted to watch a favorite TV show, you'd look it up on the TV guide, everybody sit around and those kinds of things. And when we talk about news, we're talking about things where in our own areas, we might not even be thinking about earthquakes and wildfires. And so all of these things are in the faces of our children, not to mention social media, when all of that begins. The complexities that they face today are more enormous than any one of us could have imagined. We have to raise them in a different way. We have to think differently, and we have to give them tools right from the very, very beginning that they can use for life, as opposed to waiting until we see something's off and say, wait a minute, something's not right here. I need to do something about this. How do I address it? We're of the proactive mindset here with my business and my company and all of my partners, and saying, what can we do first ahead of time to give kids the tools we need, which means we have to learn them first. So I hope that answered your question. It's much more complex.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One thing I understand is that devices are the vices of today. So many devices. How do we deal with that? That is one big problem, because we need them and we don't need them. Perhaps we need a few. We don't need as many as are available. One is that. But is that the only problem? How are parents dealing with all these issues? Should they be educated first, or children need to be educated first? How does that happen?
Yeah.
What comes first today?
Let me answer that in two parts. First of all, us. I think we have to be consciously aware of when those devices in our hands. And if we are sitting with our family in front of us and we have a phone in front of us, or we're at a restaurant and we have a phone in front of us, we are unintentionally sending the signal that that device is more important than the people in front of us in that moment. So we have to gauge our own behavior first. And as our children are growing up, when they're toddlers and they need that eye contact, they need that one-to-one interaction. They don't need you to be looking at a device. Every single moment in those developmental years is critical. I think the first thing we need to do is be conscious and aware and intentionally put those phones down and turn off those devices at really important times during the day. And that doesn't mean there are some of us who have jobs, and absolutely you've got to take that phone call, but your family becomes part of that whole solution and discussing, how does this work for us? There's no phones at the dinner table, all of those kinds of things. But I want to bring everyone's attention to a movement in the United States called Wait until 8th. And I love what they are doing, AJ, because it's a group of parents in a school that say we are banding together and we are not going to give our children cell phones until the 8th grade. And even if you disagree with 8th grade, because kids develop at a different stage, the pressures of everybody in the class has one. But what this movement also does is share step-by-step information. If we're going to put a cell phone in our children's hands, all it needs to be is 5 phone numbers, texting and phone calls either. No social media. Social media doesn't get thrown on until they're 16, 17 years old. We do it step by step to teach them how to use the device properly and safely. I mean, you know as well as I do how many scams you get on your phone, or never mind predators. So there's two folds here. Us being consciously aware, making intentional choices about what we put in our children's hands and when, and how much control to give them. I liken it to drinking and driving. Like you have to be a certain age before you get in front of a wheel. You know what the consequences are if you have a drink and you drive. 8-year-olds with a cell phone in their hand who are on Snapchat, do they really understand the full consequences of what that world is? No, they don't. They simply don't. Developmentally, they don't have the ability to differentiate between this is safe, this is unsafe. Is this person real? Yeah. So twofold in answer to your question, in my opinion.
Right, Lynn. Let's look at it this way. Your mission is to, for children, is to build confidence, empathy, self-awareness, and responsibility. Let's look at our real world. How do you build confidence when they are seeing so many things around in homes, in society, and outside in school also?
Yeah.
What is the type of, when you talk of confidence, what confidence? Confidence is based on something. So I want to understand what sort of a confidence you want to build. Second thing is about empathy together.
Yes.
In our society, when they don't see evidence of empathy, where will they learn from? First, these two things, then we'll come to self-awareness and responsibility.
Well, I think we can pull those characteristics really under one umbrella. We might look at them; they each have a different definition or quality. But when we're building those characteristics of self-confidence, being able to express themselves, being able to be in a social experience, problem solving, all of those kinds of things, it comes down to building that from the time they're little people. And so, what we like to say is, when we normalize conversations about feelings and emotions in our homes, it becomes part of what we do. As a parent, we come home from work. It's been a horrible day. I need 5 minutes. We model, we state I am really upset today. Something happened at work. I don't want to talk about it right now, but I need 5 minutes. Mom's going to be in the other room. I'm going to have my earbuds in, but come and talk to me if you need to, if it's an emergency. You model naming the behavior. You model naming what's happened, how you're going to cope with it. And then you come back and model problem solving. You model failing. You model when you're sad, when you're not, when you're grieving. All of those things become normal. So kids also start to be able to express those emotions. And when they feel loved and when they feel valued for who they are and what they bring to the table, that's when those skills start to build. If we come in angry and slamming the door, our kids aren't going to be talking to us, because that's the reaction they're going to. If we react and jump all over them for something that's gone wrong, they're going to start to hide things from us. That's when we suppress all of that open communication.
Right. When we talk of children's emotional health and well-being, what does that look like? What does a normal or a emotionally well brought up person looks like? For a child, it's the first time that they are living that age. How does that look like? Sometimes even we forget. We tend to look at our own children with a yardstick of our own ears. That's very unfair. So how do we know that this is what normal childhood is all about, when we are seeing so many disjointed things in our own lives?
Yeah, I think it goes back to everything's okay to bring to the table. Everything's okay to talk about in the house. Being angry is all right. It's an emotion that we all feel. But do we model that as parents? That being angry is okay, but this is the way I deal with it, and this is the way I move on. Being upset. All of those things are real and they're normal. And teaching our kids that we have those feelings for a reason and we have to figure out why we're feeling that way so we can do something about it. And sometimes when we're feeling worried, there's a reason and we need to listen to that. There's a reason we're worried. So I think being emotionally well means that you are aware of your feelings, you're aware of why you're feeling this way, and then you know what to do about it to take it to a place of problem solving and resolution in a positive way, rather than the reactionary blah 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 blah, put the door up, lock, shut everybody out. Well, that doesn't solve anything. So emotionally well to me means exactly that. You can cope. Whatever is thrown at you in your life, you've got some tools to deal with that in some way, shape, or form.
Right, right, Lynn. We have talked about the responsibilities of parents. What about the education system and schools itself? How
Yeah.
have been they playing this role? Is it that they have not done what they needed to do and now the problem has aggravated? How does it? You have been an educator, you have been a principal, vice principal,
Yeah.
very much deep into the system. How do you look at that? Can only just should only parents be responsible for this?
Absolutely not. It's an absolute community. So when I started to shake my head no at first because it's not a school responsibility. It's not an education responsibility. But think about the synergy if this is happening in school settings and in homes, and not only for children. So I'm watching around the world. There are countries where it is embedded in their curriculum from early years. China is one of them. In Ontario, we have a school Ontario mental health curriculum. It's optional right now, and we have teachers who are teaching, going into classrooms and modeling it for students. It's starting in our grade 7-8 curriculum. I'm really imploring people to say, look, we talk about extreme behaviors. We can teach kids. We can give kids 5 tools in their toolbox that are secular and accepted around the world to say, this is what I'm going to try right now because this is the way I'm feeling. And it's okay to do that. If we do that in our schools and in our communities and in our homes, our teachers will be healthier, our adults will be healthier, our parents will be healthier, because when we learn how to do it to teach them, we're better off as well. We learn to be present. We learn to be in the moment as opposed to being carried off into these 1,000 different things that are happening in our lives. So I think it's a societal problem that can be solved, that is being solved in many different ways around the world. But when you embed it in a curriculum, then it becomes a mandatory component if you started it in junior kindergarten here, for example, in North America, then teachers are taught how to do that, how to bring it into the curriculum at that age appropriate age. And then they learn them themselves. And as those kids go through school, they get more and more and more strategies to use. And it becomes part of classroom conversations and problem solving when there's a conflict. It's got so much power. And we have decades of research to support it. I have a whole page on my website of the decades of research that supports this kind of proactive work. People call it all different things: mindfulness, visualization. There's all different ways, using nature. So many different ways that we can teach kids to manage their emotions in a positive way today. Together.
Right, right. You talked of 5 tools. Are these the same that you want to teach children so that they can face everyday situation well? Are these the same tools that you are talking about?
The tools in my books. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
the
talk
tools in the
about
books. Well,
yeah,
yeah, so in the children's book series called The Power of Thought, each book teaches a different strategy. So for example, one of them that's called I Can Calm My Mind is a person, and it's a fictional being off an imaginary planet. We had such fun doing that. Carnuli is upset because everyone went to the park without them. And then the mind goes, oh, and we teach deep breathing in a way that every child can relate to and parents can learn it. In another book, we teach visualization. In another book, we teach the power of realizing you have more than one choice or 2 choices. I'm not happy with either one, but we have to be aware and teach kids to look around, using senses to calm ourselves. So each book teaches a separate strategy. And our hope is by the time all 5 books are read and practiced, the strategies are practiced, that every child, at least 3 of them will work. But those are only 5 of hundreds of strategies that we can be teaching kids today.
right, Lynn. In
Yeah.
in terms of you want to focus on evidence-based strategies for children. What are these? What do you mean by that? Evidence-based? Is it too much of fake things floating around, or is it something else that you want to emphasize on?
basically, if I just take those 5 strategy, we actually have 10 books written, but these 5 are out right now. They're part of research. You could actually look at cognitive behavior therapy, which we use when people are having trouble and needing to dig deep, and we take those principles and put them in a childlike concept and teach them strategies for 2, 3. Well, really, age 4 is the time when we want to be starting. Before that, it's more of a read aloud and let's have fun and look at the characters and those kinds of things. So they're ground in research. We just don't pull them out of thin air and say, "Oh, try this; it might work for your child." There's decades of research that says these strategies work. They work differently for everyone. Some work better than others, and each one of us, it behooves us to figure out what works for us and our children as well. So,
Right, right. Your book series, now let's come to that. The Power of Thought. It's a nice name. Why the power of thought for
because it
children?
all, yeah.
They're too young to understand all these things.
Well, but I mean, the bottom line is it comes down to what we're thinking in our own minds. So, I'm going to fail the test. I'm going to fail the test. I'm going to fail the test. And then we teach them that. I call it Henrietta. Henrietta is in my mind spiraling. And let's talk about what's happened in the past where I've done well. And so focus on the truth and focus on the facts and being able to realize that it's your mind that if you can be aware of those thoughts that are racing, or I'm feeling anxious because, and identify the reasons, then you can teach yourself specific strategies. It's not the end all be all. We talk about mental health, mental illness in a totally different category. But when we have things already in place, as opposed to flying off the handle to say, hold on, I'm upset. This is what I'm going to do right now. It makes a difference. So it's the power of the mind. It really is. That's what it's all about. Our thinking, our thoughts.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, who is this book for? Is it for children? Is it for parents? Is it for schools? Schools? Who is this book for? And what is there a proper sequence to learn it, or you can just pick up any of these books? Are they already in the market, or where is it available at the moment?
They
Or
are
it's yet to come
anywhere
out?
books can be sold. They're on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. If you want signed copies, you can order them through our website. But our target market initially was parents, right? And from we have been in early years classrooms all the way up to grade 5. It's really age 4 to age 10, and you approach it differently according to the age level. But what we found is older siblings are learning these strategies themselves when they're reading it to their younger siblings. And we've had parents say, "Oh my goodness," or grandparents say, "I didn't know anything about this." And I myself, my co-author is my niece. She's a social worker. I learned some of these things from myself that I'd never even known about before. Using your 5 senses to ground yourself, I had no idea. So as adults, it's really cool because I guess we should have expected it. Teachers are using it in their classrooms as toolboxes now, 5 different strategies out of your toolbox. Which one are you going to use? So in answer to your question, it's affected so many people in a positive way. We're just tickled pink every time we hear something else. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's wonderful. You are, creating that impact and inspiration to a lot of people. I'm sure a lot of these conversations should happen, must happen, and there is much to learn from you about all these things, Lynn. And from your books, from even also have a podcast. Tell us about that so that more and more people can learn more about these things and others.
Yeah, it's called Taking the Helm. We're on Voice America Radio. And my guests are all people who are experts in the field of being proactive for children's emotional well being. And I've learned so much every time I have a guest. I learn something new from them too. And we also do parent information evenings. And the last school that we were at was a very diverse group of dads, of moms, of parents who were just interested in talking about what does it look like in my home when I want to begin normalizing conversations about feelings. And that looks different to everybody, because it really does. We have to learn ourselves, as I said. So these parent information evenings we also offer, and virtually and in person, and those are going really, really well too. If we can affect 5 people in an audience, if we have 5 people in an audience, then it's 5 people we're gonna hope we're gonna take the things home, the strategies home. If we have 100 and 5 take them home, then 5 different families have now begun to say, "Hey, I want to try some things differently because this isn't working for us," and that's really powerful.
Absolutely. So, what is the best way for people to, learn more about you, to get more from you, and to connect with you professionally if they want to?
Everything's on my website, lynnmclaughlin.com. All the social media is there. My email is lynn@lynnmclaughlin.com. So that's MC. It's on the screen in terms of the spelling. And we'd love to hear from you. And I have to say, AJ, ironically, we had a couple of women. There was a group of women. They were on teacher exchange, I think. I think they were from Pakistan. And took the books back, and they were going to be bringing them back into their schools. So we've got the reach globally, and it's in Australia as well. We just took the books to Australia. So open to conversations with anyone around the world, because this is important for all of us.
Absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Be well.